Welcome to Season 3 of the Empowering Women podcast, a production of the Empowering Women in Industry organization. Together, we will hear from ambitious and inspiring career women as they share their stories of success and overcoming career challenges. I'm Charlie Matthews, founder of Empowering Women, and I am proud to introduce our host, Shannon Bumgarner from Femspired.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Empowering Women podcast. Unbelievably, this is the final episode for season number 3 and my first season with the Empowering Women podcast. So today I decided to do a little bit of a special episode. I'm going to share one of my best friends with you because admittedly, I was going to take December off. And then I decided, you know what? I want to do something fun to celebrate my first season with the podcast. So I thought I'm going to give you a gift to myself and I'm going to give a gift to you. And that little special treat is Miss Wende Goble. So Wendy is amazing. She does logistics and facilities management for Train Rental Services, which is part of our larger Train Technologies family. And she's one of my closest friends. She's been by my side through the highs and lows and everything in between. So I promise you're going to love this episode. Wendy's got some fabulous stories, and trust me, we're going to have some fun. So get ready to learn, love, and laugh. And welcome Wendy to the podcast.
Thank you, Shannon, my person. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Wendy. So we're going to title this episode, you and I both love this title, The Gift of Grit. And let me tell you, Wendy has grit in spades. But really quickly, I forgot. So in celebrating the upcoming holiday season, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, which you have to watch it on YouTube to check out our ugly Christmas sweaters. I'm actually going to change my angle here a little bit. I have on my Hallmark Christmas watching sweater because I'm a Hallmark nerd. And Wendy is super crafty, and she has on her tinsel and her little feet hanging out of the Christmas tree. So we're here in gifting and ready for the holiday season. So with that, Wendy, we always start with the telling of your personal and professional story. So tell me a little bit about what got you to where you are today through some of your career journeys, and we'll slip in some fun, I'm sure, along the way.
Yes, we will. We have stories.
We have lots of stories. That's right.
Lots of stories, yeah. My family, first most, has been my biggest cheerleaders. I have a husband, Tog, as we refer to him. Tog,
right?
The other Goble.
Well, what does Tog stand for our audience?
The other Goble.
The other Goble. That's right.
Yeah, he's my biggest cheerleader. He declares I'm going to be the next CEO of a company someday. So yes, he's very supportive. I have a son and a daughter, a son that's in the service industry and has his own business. And then a daughter that actually pivoted in her career. She was in psychology and she moved over into nursing. And so she's working in neurology. And then my parents, my mom and my stepdad, and my in-laws, Della and Marty, and my mom, Bobby and Bob, right. My stepdad. So yeah, great support, family, and then friends that I've met along the way on my journey through my career. I started at Stryker in the mailroom. Moved all around. They hired me as a temp, and then they hired me as a permanent employee because I needed somebody.
But you have to tell the engineering story, Wendy, about Stryker. Because I don't let Wendy live this down. So come on, Wendy, you got to tell that part of the story.
Yeah. So I had a manager. His name was Mike Jesdemir. And he was convinced that I needed to be an engineer. And I did not. He had me work in the CAD department, and I hated it. I was more intrigued with the engineer that thought outside of the box. He would test certain things, and I would be his guinea pig. So he had those CPM units that you put your knees in after knee surgery. So he was constantly thinking outside of the box. I liked working for him. I did not like working in the CAD. And I thought, nope, I do not want to be an engineer. I want to be in supply chain. At the time, I didn't know what supply chain was. All I
Okay.
knew is that I wanted to buy stuff, right? I like to
Right.
spend money. I wanted to buy parts. Um, but Stryker gave me the opportunity and helped me with my school. And because financially, I didn't have very much support at the time financially. So my next thought was, let's have a company. Let's go work for a company and take advantage of the education program within the company.
Right.
That's how I received my associate's degree.
Right.
Um, just continued to persevere um,
Yep. Back to
and move
grit,
forward.
right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. No, there is no such thing as no. Everything and anything is possible. But I mean, I'll be the first to tell you there are days where I have the black crow on my shoulder that
Yep.
I
So,
have need
so
help
that's what
knocking
Wendy and
down.
I call imposter syndrome, right? The black crow.
Yep, the
Yep.
black crow. Yep. And that black crow likes to land every once in a while, and I'll call Shannon and say, "Help me! I need this black crow to go away."
Yeah, and
So
it's really loud and it does not like to shut up, does it?
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just like the monkeys in the circuses, right? They just like to chatter all around, and you just
Yep.
have to put them in a corner. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So Wendy, I still tell her years later that she should have been an engineer. I've had the pleasure to work with her on quite a few different things, and I think your earlier leader was right, by the way, Wendy. So just saying.
I'll make sure to let him know to listen.
Yeah.
Yep, I think he was very disappointed because I did move on because my britches got too smart for myself and moved to
Yeah.
another company. Um, and then, so I worked for a filtration company, and I did. There, I had the opportunity. I was the first female supervisor in a union shop.
Yep. So
Um,
Wendy's tough, by the way, too. So think about that. First female supervisor in a union shop. I mean, she is tough as they come.
hmm So I would use that contract against them. So I would study the contract because I did not want to be pushed around. And I had a lot of men at the time that really harassed me on the production floor, but I just picked up my chin and I mean, it was a struggle sometimes because Black Crow would land every once in a while. But that, boy, you want to talk about grit.
Yep. Yep. There's
Supervising
grit.
a manufacturing facility.
Yep.
That's a union.
Yep. And then you spent some time in scheduling and procurement. Well, I'm gonna call it buying at the facility, correct?
Correct. Yep. So then I had the opportunity to move into planning. And then I wanted the opportunity for purchasing. It's just unfortunate. Some companies, they put you in this box and they don't they want to keep you in manufacturing planning or they want to keep you in manufacturing supervision where I wanted to experience the whole supply chain as overall. I wanted to experience procurement. I wanted to experience buying, planning. My husband and I relocated to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I had the opportunity to work for a very cool product line, Harley Davidson apparel for VF Imagewear. And you think, oh, apparel. Well, there's a lot that goes into that art that you
Yep.
have on a t-shirt. I find myself when I go through these t-shirt places in Florida, they're crooked, they're crooked, they're crooked. Um, but there is where I had the opportunity to be involved in a little bit of the purchasing side and also, but more on the production planning and the capacity planning, because
Right.
again, I was put in this box.
Yep.
Then
But
we had
just
the,
a diverse career, Wendy. So you've worked in production and supervision. You've worked in like as a master scheduler. You've worked in like I would call it more tactical buying at the local site level, and then you made the leap that you wanted a couple years ago over into strategic sourcing. So I know that was that was the culmination of what you'd really tried to get to, and that's where we had the honor to meet and work together. So yeah.
we did. I mean, Train Technologies, what a great company. They're very supportive of their employees and going outside of the box, right? They're okay if you want to venture outside of that
Yep.
box. And I was given the opportunity by Dina Bogus to experience strategic sourcing. And I know at the
Yeah. Hi,
time,
Dina. How are you? So I hope you listen to this too.
I know, right? I know. And she was just amazing. I know when I interviewed for the position, I had the Black Crow. I had multiple Black Crows.
Yeah, you
And
had the whole block with that one, right?
I did. And I remember after interviewing, and I thought to myself, this was my first time in my career that I really wanted to work for someone like Dina. She was organized, she was a mentor, and anything was possible with her,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
I told myself when I walked out of that building, I hope I get that. I hope I get that position because I want to work for her. Well, fast forward, I did. And then a month later, you started.
Yeah,
Um,
that crazy engineer showed up and you're like, oh boy, not one of
oh,
those.
right. And you and I had the opportunity to work when I was at the plant
Yep, a little bit.
earlier.
True.
And I know you were like, I don't remember you. I'm like, oh, I remember you. I remember everybody because it's all about relationships.
Yep.
It is. That's my number one mantra. It's all about
Yeah.
your relationships.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to take that and pivot it just for a second. So I was going to ask you like what some of the couple of leadership skills and traits you thought had been pivotal for your success. I'm going to tee this one up. So Jim, Wendy's husband, and I like to joke that Wendy knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. So she is hands down one of the most resourceful people I have ever met. So tell us about how that's helped your success, because I know that's one, and then I'm gonna tee up my second favorite, which you know what's coming.
Yeah. So, it is about relationships because I've learned so much and from individuals that have helped my track of resource along the line, as well as I've been able to help them as well. I
Right.
have utilized LinkedIn during hurricane
Oh yeah, you got to
recovery.
tell that story. So we had to source what was it? An ISO tank,
So
right?
tank.
So we have a Train Technologies has a site in Arecibo, Puerto Rico that was unfortunately impacted by a hurricane. So pick it up from there, Wendy.
Had no idea what an ISO tank was, had to Google it, but I had a manager come down the aisle and say, hey, we need an ISO tank. At the time, I Googled it, and then there was all these news resources stating that FEMA took all of them during that hurricane over in Puerto Rico. So I got on LinkedIn, and after the fourth or fifth person that I contacted, actually formed a great relationship with him, and he found an ISO tank, actually two of them, and held them from FEMA for us. So we were able to get water and fuel to Puerto Rico.
Which
Learned a
was
lot.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah, learned a
Yeah.
lot. Did I thought they came with a chassis? They don't. So then you had to go find a chassis, and just yeah, it was interesting. But we were able to turn that in a week,
Yep.
and it was on a boat on the way to Puerto Rico. So
So I'm going to tell another one of my favorite stories. And for our listeners, I think what I want you to take away from this is that relationships, like Wendy said, are a two-way street. You find something from that person and you give it back. I would also say, I know you and I watched a TED Talk by Margaret Heffernan about social capital, and really she talks about the super chicken. So everybody thinks, oh, I have to be this super chicken, but really you can get stuff solved a lot faster if you use your social capital. So the funny story that I like to tell, and this happened just, oh, I don't know, I think it was actually earlier this year, Wendy, we had an issue with a different facility here in the US that I won't name, but we had to get, I believe it was water down there. And what's really funny about it was we had to call Wendy. Wendy had actually moved on to a different role, but we needed to get her help. She actually got it down there faster than our logistics team. So the reason why I like to tell that story is, A, you got to find grit. Sometimes you just got to go do it, and you got to dig deep and figure it out. But the second piece is that social capital that Wendy builds is so incredibly important, and it can help you from a career perspective or a personal perspective to get
mhm.
things done quicker or less painful, or maybe better than you would have by yourself.
Yeah. And I formed great relationships with individuals that I met through the whole disaster recovery. And I remember you and I had a conversation where I did not want to be that emergency person. I did not want that brand. And I really wanted to pivot to being a resourceful person that can help in situations like that. But I didn't want that to be the core of my brand. I wanted the core of my brand to be relationships.
Okay. Yep.
That's where I am today.
Right.
Authenticity and relationships is key. If there's anything that I've learned from you, Shannon, it's that.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Hmm.
So the second trait that I'm going to ask Wendy to tee up is the power of no. So, so tell me about the power of no, Wendy.
So that's for you and I. You're the yin to the yang,
Yep.
right? So Shannon is too much. That's too much conflict. Where I am okay with saying no, and I don't know if
Pretty
it's just
emphatically at times.
you know. So I like the word no, but I don't like the word no to me.
Yeah.
So I struggle with the word no to me because to me anything's possible. If I can find an ISO tank, I can do just about anything. So yeah, the word no is my favorite because you get a lot, I think, where individuals are like, this is just too hard. This is, do we really want to put this much time? And in the end, I mean, I've been their biggest cheerleader. Like, okay,
Right.
I know you can do this. I go through that every day in my position now that this is
Yep.
too hard. This is going to cost too much money. It's like, no, we can do this and it's not going to take that much money. Um,
Yeah, I
but yeah,
think you
I
use
love the word
no
no.
in two ways. One, and this is where I'm learning from you, is setting boundaries. I think that's what our audience needs to walk away with. Is often I had some smart person tell me this: saying no to others can often be saying yes to yourself. So
Mhm.
I think that's what I really learned from you is I would often say yes too often, and then I would be like, oh shoot, right? No, that's not good. But I think the second thing that you're pointing out that I love is we often say no, that can't be done, right? We've always done it that way, or I know I can't do that.
Mhm.
So I think that's also the second thing that you're saying. Is that right?
Yep. And you and I went through that in this strategy that we built together. And that's where the yin to the yang worked because I had no
Yep.
problem going to bat to say, no, here's the possibility. Whereas the engineering you was able to develop that plan very quickly to show them you were able to read,
Yep.
that room and
Yep.
react very quickly.
Yeah, so that actually is a good transition. So Wendy and I think you've heard this talk about us. We met as category managers in an indirect procurement organization. Even though we both come from manufacturing, we both came from very different backgrounds. I would say different strengths and different perspectives. Although I think we both share a strong will and stubbornness, which was good and bad sometimes, right?
Yep.
Um, so we were paired together on a really significant, large strategic project, and quite frankly, neither one of us knew what we were doing. Right? We came at it from different ways, but neither one of us really know what we were doing. And for me, Wendy, it was a transformative experience, not just in the puts and takes of the project, but just working with you and learning. I grew so much during that process. So share with our audience maybe one or two moments that stood out for you as part of that project.
Um, for two people that did not have strategic sourcing background and no procurement background, and I know there were times where you and I were like, "What are we doing?" and was trying to wrap our arms around it. Um,
Included the flooded conference room, right? Remember we went in the
right.
corner conference room. We were like, we can't work in here today. It's flooded or it's been
Yeah.
flooded.
And I started reaching out. I mean, we both, I mean, that's even you. We both started reaching out to our network. We started reaching out to our Europe
Yep.
facility. and the power of the people and the knowledge and what they have gone through, and the experiences through that whole process, and how resourceful we became, and how we really leaned on some of these suppliers to just understand that space as
True.
well.
Yep.
We were so resourceful through that process.
Yep.
Anything was possible. And I mean, there were times where you and I were like, we can't do this. And
Yep.
you'd pick me up or I'd pick you up.
Yep.
We were never on the same page as quitting the
Yeah.
strategy.
I think that's actually really powerful. So Brene Brown talks about this in one of her books. I believe it's The Gifts of Imperfection, but she's talking about it more in the aspect of her husband, but in a close relationship or partnership where you may not be at 100% energy level that day, right? Either there's something
Mhm.
going on at work or at home, or maybe you're just darn tired from the day before. And I think it really was important because some days I come in there and, by the way, audience, I'm not a morning person. And she would come in there and be like, okay, we're getting not so happy, bouncy Shannon today. Right?
And I was really cautious when I was thinking in the car.
Oh gosh.
So I
So
do my
I
best
tell
thinking in
people
the car.
If Wendy ever says if she ever walks into a room and says, I thought about this in the car, I'm like, just pack your stuff up, close your laptop, and run quickly.
Because we pivoted. We were going down a path and it wasn't a fit for trained technologies. We
Oh,
knew
that
it.
was a fun conversation. That was one of
It
the
was,
ultimate. By the way, I haven't shared this, but let's go ahead. So we were together so much that we actually started calling ourselves Shindy. So
yeah,
that was a true Shindy moment, right?
yep, it was. And I know Shannon was like, "Are you out of your mind?" And I think that was like one of those I was thinking in the car kind of conversations.
It was. So let me set
Yeah.
the stage. So Wendy walks in and she says, Shannon, I was thinking in the car that we need to pivot from this path we were going down. And let me paint the picture. We'd put a lot of effort into the prior path, a lot of back and forth, a lot of different meetings, a lot of long hours outside of the day. And I literally gave her the biggest, what in the heck are you thinking look? And I'm intentionally not using some other words that came through my brain.
And both of them were very close, but it just it just that was pivotal, and that was very hard for me to do because sometimes my confidence, and I tend to second guess myself when I do bring up a topic that I passionately believe in and don't want to hear the word no. So I handle that. I try to handle that very delicately. I know you walked out of the room. You were like, I gotta think on this one a little bit. I gotta, yeah,
After I had that mini outburst, yeah.
yeah, I know.
But I think it's really important. So we actually did end up pivoting, audience, just to not keep you in suspense. We actually did end up pivoting. And I think it was really important that you need to have those crucial conversations. So if I go back to a learning, you have to have those conversations. And to your point, Wendy, about going into it delicately, you got to figure out that person, what relationship, back to your earlier point, do you have with that person, and how can you approach this to at least get to a different space? It may not even be the space that you envision walking in, but
Yeah,
and
that
she
was
hit
a,
me with data, so she knew where to hit me.
yeah, I did. So I just started going down the list of data, and then we had to start putting some meeting notes together to meet with Dina and team, and yeah, that was hard. That was a hard one. That's where, with my lack of confidence at times, I really put my foot forward and I thought, well, if I don't say anything, um, would
Yep.
nothing happen, right? I mean, we just
Yep.
had to take a step back. I think we were
Yep.
very passionate.
Yeah, and I'm going to share one of my moments. So during these processes, there's pretty decent amount of executive presentation that's required. So at each time you go through a gate, and we had many ones in between. we had to do presentation skills, and this is something that I've done a long time in my career. And as many of you know, I do speaking engagement, so I've had my share of training. Well, this was a place that Wendy was really looking to grow as part of this project. So I think for me, what was transformative was to be able to coach you in that process, but let you have your own voice. Because one day you looked at me and you said, "Well, Shannon, I don't present like you," and I'm like, "Nor should you." Right.
Yeah.
And you had this moment of, oh, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm not supposed to present like you or someone else? I'm like, Wendy, you have to be authentically you. If you don't do that in that moment, then you're never going to be the presenter you want to be. You're not going to be me, nor should you be.
Yeah.
And it was a moment it's always made me feel really good selfishly, because I feel like that was a tipping point for you.
It was. It was. I mean, that's where I started to realize my own strengths. That, I mean, I was like your perfect child. I was your perfect poster of imposter syndrome, with the crows on my shoulder through my whole career. Um, and I don't want to say through my whole career, but a majority of it, I lacked confidence in myself. And I was always looking to others to be like them. And if there's one thing I've learned from you, Shannon, it wasn't to be like you, but all the things that I could learn from you, because
Yep.
that's my takeaway is I love to learn new things. That's probably going back to the striker days and why I like to engineer that thought outside the box, because I like that. I don't like to be put in a box. I like to be outside of that box. I want to be different. And if
Yep.
there's anything I've learned through that whole process and that strategic was just that it's
Yep.
okay that I wasn't a perfect presenter.
Yep.
Um, but I presented.
Yep. She is bar none one of the most creative people. So let's see, she does her own furniture. She refinishes furniture. I am going to pivot a little bit. So at one point, Wendy owned her own photography business, and I'm going to brag on her a little bit here. So if you've seen my amazing headshots on the Powering Women podcast or LinkedIn, Miss Wendy is responsible for those. So huge shout out and thank you. We had a great time that day, by the way.
I know we
But they
did.
are fabulous and fantastic. But what I'm really want to ask is, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs from your time doing that? I know it was a really different time for you.
Yeah, it was. Don't The biggest thing for me when I started the photography business is I always looked at Instagram and
Mm,
Pinterest and always wanted to be, because again, the imposter syndrome. That's before I
yep.
knew the word imposter. And then I'm like, nope, I'm gonna do my own
Nope.
thing. I'm
There it
gonna,
comes.
yeah, there comes a nope. And I did not want to be like other photographers. I know some photographers will tell you the way to make money is weddings. I hate weddings. I hate weddings. So I didn't do them. I didn't do them.
Yeah. So you
Why?
found your own niche, right?
I
So weddings
did.
wasn't your thing.
It
So
wasn't.
you found your own way.
I did. So the one age group that I absolutely loved was senior high school photos. I loved hearing their dreams and
Mm,
where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. And anything is possible, right? Um, and then the next was like that age group of 2 to 5, because the innocence that they bring.
mm.
Um, and I wasn't a posy type of photographer. I
Yep.
liked action. So I liked to blow bubbles and have the children following bubbles. I created my own
Although your
style.
dog is hysterical. So she has
Yes.
a Shih Tzu named Coco, and Coco often made guest appearances in the
Yep.
photos.
She loved getting up on chairs, and she liked to be part of the photographs. I did professional photos, and there was one gentleman that she kept trying to jump on his lap because she wanted to be in the photos. Hasn't changed. She's still the same way.
Hmm.
Um, yep. But there was a photographer that I would follow, And he actually had his dog in the background of the photos. That was his brand,
Yeah.
Black
But
Dog.
so I think for our audiences, if you need to do it your way,
You do.
whatever
Yep.
business you're doing or side hustle you're doing, you need to do it your way.
And
Yep.
it's
Any
okay to
other?
reach out. Yep, it's okay to reach out and network with other photographers. I'm not afraid to meet new people. So I would do meetups with other photographers
Okay.
to get other ideas. I put the phone down. I didn't look at Pinterest anymore. I didn't look at Instagram anymore because I wanted to really create my own style and be my own person for a photographer.
Yep.
So
I
that's how
hear
I
you.
started. Yep.
Yeah. So
And
the
I love
advice I
it.
heard was do it your way. And then, and Michelle Taylor in our prior podcast actually said the same thing. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Build
Don't.
that network and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Don't.
Yep.
Yep. 100%. That's yep.
Well, speaking of asking for help, one of the bravest things that I've really seen you do is pursuing the remaining parts of your bachelor's degree as I should say, a little bit more seasoned employee. I'm going to put it that way. And what I've really seen is Wendy's just hit this head on. Like a lot of us, our heads were spinning. Like she decided to do it, and then she's like off to the races. Um, and I think it's just what I've said is so much grit and grace that it takes to do what you're doing. So tell our audience a little bit about why you made the decision and anything you've learned along the way.
Yeah. So again, like I said earlier, I like to learn new things, and I found in my career position prior to where I am now, I was very bored, and I was just climbing the walls because I wasn't learning anything new. I was networking and trying to find other avenues for a career path. And I I actually had a coworker that I contacted her for a position that she had in her department. And she said, and it was hard because that I had the conversation that I don't have a degree. And I was always very transparent with people that when I applied for positions that I don't have a degree, but I have this wealth of experience. And she asked me, why don't you have a degree? And I said, well, the ROI and my age. And I came up with all these excuses, and I'm listening to myself and I'm thinking to
Comes back to
myself,
that word of no, right?
I know, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I need to own this, right? I'm coming up with all these excuses to not versus all these reasons to. So I started looking into online programs because we're in the middle of the pandemic. I really don't want to drive an hour one way to school in the brick and mortar, and I really wanted to be progressive with my education. And that's where I found Purdue. Purdue had an outstanding online program, and they actually met because that's the other thing they like to do is negotiate. So they actually
Oh yeah.
met.
So fair warning, audience: do not ever be on the other side of that table. When we were in the project, I was like, "Whew, I'm glad I'm on this side of that table."
Yeah.
Yep.
So they accepted all of my credits from all, but the one thing I realized when I made that decision that I was making it for me, and I wasn't making that decision for somebody else, like part of
Hmm.
that whole imposter thing, right?
Yep.
I was making it for me, and I'm learning new things that sometimes your career you're not learning, and I mean, face it, you're sometimes just so tactical in it sometimes that you can't see the forest behind the trees. And it's interesting because even some of my classes, I've brought some of that information to my new position now. What about this or what about that? So it's giving me the opportunity to even grow more outside my box.
And I'm like a proud mama because she's knocking it out of the park. I think your GPA is like super high, and I'm like, yep,
Yep.
see, I knew it. But my
Yep.
favorite part is we have a mutual colleague that he started walking down the same excuse path,
Mhm.
and that didn't go well for him, right, Wendy?
No, no. He was coming up with all the reasons to not, and I kept taking those reasons away. I mean, ultimately, he needs to make that decision because there is that fear factor if I can't do it, all that negativity, and it just he has to find that path for himself and know that in the long run, he'll be, but sometimes school isn't for everybody, right? But
Yeah, but I think the lesson is so powerful. It's that you're not doing it for somebody else, you're doing it for you, right?
you're doing it for
Um,
you. It's
yeah.
something
So
that nobody can take away from you.
yeah. And it
And
may be
that's,
education. It might be starting that side hustle you've been wanting to do. It might be taking that vacation that you've been wanting to take at some point. So it may or may not be school, but I just love the grit. Going back to our theme of the gift of grit, it's really reflecting and saying, I'm going to do this for me,
you know,
not for anybody else.
yep. And I mean, I have my biggest cheerleaders. So I have Ramya Tool, and I have you, Shannon, and I have Dina Bogus. I have so many cheerleaders. My new manager, Matt Bowles. I have, I'm very blessed to be surrounded with great support, and even my own family. My
Yep.
own daughter is very excited that I
Yep.
have decided to go back and finish. And I am too. It's just so much more opportunity, and um,
Yep.
I'm excited. And it's another
I love
reason
it.
to get together and have a party
Yeah,
when I graduate.
exactly. We're waiting on that party. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yep.
So you just really led me into one of my other questions. So I know you've had mentors, coaches, and teachers along the journey. You've mentioned that a few times.
Mhm.
Um, can you? Is there an example of a moment that stands out to you, or a person that stands out to you? Because I think mentors and coaches, it kind of goes back to, we're actually filming this thing, or we're doing this Thanksgiving week. So for me, it's time to step back and be grateful for those people that have come into our lives. Any person or moment that sticks out to you?
You.
Aw.
You. I mean, the what I have learned from you, Shannon. I mean, I've had other mentors, and to me, mentors are, you have you have different mentors that satisfy certain things in your career, your
Sure.
personal life, right? Um, and you have, um, and then you have those mentors that are a little mix of both, right? Um, you've you've had some very difficult conversations with me, and there's been some
Yep.
tears. And to me, mentorship is not all happy.
Nope.
I hope. I know there's just been very hard conversations that you've had with me, and same with Dina. I mean, she had a very hard conversation with me, and I remember crying and like, how can I change this? And I had to find it within myself, right? And there was no timetable to it. It was Wendy's timetable, and if there's anything that I learned from you, it's that. Okay, pick up your bootstraps. I mean, follow your own
Get back
mantra,
to grit,
Wendy.
right? Pull
Get
up
back
your
to the grit.
bootstrap. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Knock the black crow off and let's go. And it's pretty amazing when you hit those hurdles. So Pikes Peak is a perfect example.
Oh
And
yeah, I
like
had
to
that on my
really
list
go
of
into that.
questions. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna set the stage for our audience, and I'm gonna let Wendy tell the story. So we went to Colorado on a business trip, and we Wendy is very adventurous, and we made the decision. We were able to make the cost work, so we went out a little bit early, and we spent, I think it was a day or so. And Wendy's like, "Oh, let's do Pikes Peak." Well, dumb me, didn't do any research. And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" So we go to a place in Colorado before that called the Garden of the Gods. It's in the July timeframe, so it's pretty warm. We're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And then we go to a Greasy Spoon Diner, which you and I both love. I'm going to be honest, it's one of my guilty pleasures. And I can't remember what you had, but I think I had a hamburger or something like that. And then we both had milkshakes, which I don't typically drink. So I had to set the stage there. So I'm gonna let you pick up the story. This is a true Thelma and Louise story.
Very true. Yeah. So I did not do very much research either. Read about the Garden of Gods and Pikes Peak and thought, okay, we'll
Why
just,
not? Right?
well, yeah, let's go. So the shakes that we had were the strawberry shakes, just because I got all nostalgic because they had the old shake mixers. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
let's get one. Yep. So we get in the car, we start heading up, and I'm like, oh, Shannon, look at the snow. There's snow up there, and it's far. It looked like, it was just
Yeah.
very little.
Yep.
So as we're driving up, we're getting higher and higher. And I thought that we would drive somewhere so you could um, catch a train. Well, the train service was down, but of course, not a lot of research either. So we're driving, and so yeah, we got out by the snow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
when he says, "I
and
think we're going there," and the cars are like tiny, like
yeah,
look like toy cars, and I was like, "Wendy, you've lost your mind."
yeah, and they were hairpins, right?
A
So
hairpin turns. Yep. Oh my
yes,
gosh. Yep.
yes, and I told Shannon, I'm like, don't touch my arm because we'll
Oh,
go
oh no,
over.
no, no! It's not the way you said it. You went, Shannon. Don't touch my arm. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
I'm like,
Don't
you
touch
don't
it.
have anything to worry about because I'm gripping the seat. Okay.
Oh, Lord, yeah, it was pretty scary. So we drive past that snow
Yep.
and we get to this parking lot and we get out of the car and Shannon and I were like, oh, it was cold.
It was cold.
And
So
it
it
was
was
freezing.
snow flurries in
Yes,
July. Yep.
July. And so we're in the back of the car like Christmas Vacation when Chevy
Yeah.
Chase is in the attic. And we're like digging through our suitcases trying to find something to
Something.
put
Yeah, I think I
on.
ended up finding like this thin cardigan and I had these capri pants that were longer and that's all I had. Yep.
Yeah, they had like sweats and yeah, we look at the
We were not
pictures,
prepared. There's your lesson. You need
you
to
know,
do a little research ahead of time.
because I think we both had tanks on and shorts.
Something
Yep.
like that. Yeah.
So then we get into the bus, and the bus took you, and they're telling you the story of why grass doesn't grow there because it's too
Above the
high.
rock line. Yeah. Or above the tree
Yeah,
line. Pardon me. Yep.
but there's animals there. There was animals there, but and you're thinking, ah. So all the way up there, I'm asking the driver, how hard is it to drive down?
No, no, you do an entire survey of the gift shop. So the guy's driving. I can't remember if it's on the way there or back down. He's got one hand on the steering wheel and he's talking about like shaking a martini or something. I'm like, 10 and
10
2,
2.
put both the hands back on the steering wheel. We get up
Yeah.
there and Wendy's like walking around the gift shop going, how hard is it to get back down? Hey, how hard is it to get back down? Oh, and my favorite part is there's apparently a really special recipe of donuts that
Yeah.
can only be made at that height. And everybody's like, oh, you got to have donuts. Well, after the greasy spoon burger and the milkshake, I was like, the last thing I want is a stupid donut.
We bought them. We never ate them.
I
We
think we
never
ate
ate
like
them.
a crumb or something. Yep.
Yeah. So we walked around, and Shannon's like, "We got to get pictures," and I'm just like freaked out of my mind because there's people that are sitting on the edge, and I'm just like, "Okay, yep, we saw Pikes Peak, and we're out." Wait,
We're
we got our
out. Yep.
t-shirts. We got our t-shirts, and we got our donuts.
Yep.
Yep, and
But I will
then I
say,
interviewed everybody on the way down.
sort of to bring it back to a serious note, we tell that story because it's really funny. I'm just so glad there was not a GoPro cam in that car. But the second part was we literally conquered mountains. So this was around the same time as the project. We conquered mountains figuratively and literally. And I think what I want our audience to walk away with is we did it because we did it together.
Yep.
Because I'll be honest, we also tell the story. We pulled in the parking lot, and you looked at me, and I looked at you like, "Can we turn around now?" And we didn't. I think because both were like, "No, we can do this, right? We can do
Yep.
this. We can do this. We're here, and we're gonna do it."
Yep. And we did. And I'm thankful that I did not research it because there's no way I would have drove up. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I think that's a Black Crow talking.
You would have. You would have had to convince me to do it once you
Yeah,
told me the reality. Yep.
right. I'm just glad we didn't research it and that we just did it, right? I mean, after that, it was like, okay, we can do anything. Like
We can do
can,
anything. Yeah, we came off that
yep,
mountain. We're like, "Yep, we got this.
we
No
got
problem."
this. Yep. That was
Yep.
the
So
best.
a couple of our favorite phrases as we close this out is "We've got this." So I think Wendy and I literally have that on our walls.
Mhm.
Wendy's my favorite phrase of Wendy's is "own it."
Yep,
Yep,
100%. Yep.
own it.
And
Yep,
your circus, your monkeys, or your
yep.
monkeys, your circus, right? And I have to give
Boundaries.
myself my own, yep, I have to give myself that own advice. And I hate it when I have
Yep.
to. And sometimes you have to point that out for me, Shannon. That's those
And vice
hard
versa, right?
conversations. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I love you, but
Yeah, it's coming.
yeah,
I know when
it's
when
coming.
that comes out, I'm like, oh boy, here it comes.
Yep.
Um, so I know it's hard to believe Winnie's been so much fun. This is like spending time with my best girlfriend, which you are. So what's next for you? I know you just started a new role. What was it? Has it been 6 months maybe? Has it been that long?
No, it's been three.
Okay.
Three. Yeah, it's been three. Um, Finished school.
Yep.
And then just see what other opportunities are out there, because I always like to go outside that box.
Yep.
And see what other adventures are out there. I'm very entrepreneurial, so I find myself
Mm,
becoming very bored very quickly. I need something new. I need something different.
yep.
So stay tuned. But let's finish school
Yeah.
first.
So she's
Let's
going to finish
focus.
school. I'm going to tell my audience, and I say this with pride, that Wendy is literally one of the most resourceful people I've ever met. So I would highly encourage you to reach out to Wende Goble on LinkedIn. She can help you find anything or help coach you on how to find it. If you want to learn about negotiation, she's your girl. She is a hard-nosed negotiator. Again, I don't want to be on the other side of the table from her anytime soon. And honestly, she's just a complete inspiration. So I highly encourage you to add Wende to your network. Any final words, Wende, before we end the podcast?
No, but thank you for this opportunity. This was a great Christmas present to be able
Yeah.
to share with others the path that we both have gone down in our careers and how we've met, and the inspiration that you've brought to me through my opportunities and career path. So thank you.
Well, happy holidays, everybody. It's been an amazing season 3, and you will have to put up with me in season 4. So I will see you in 2022. Bye, everybody.